Hoi hoi, it's louisity again, and for this reading vlog, I'm going to be reading the third book in the Pandava series called Aru Shah and the Tree of Wishes. Hoorah! So, I read the second book, Aru Shah and the Song of Death, in October 2022, and I had as a buddy read with Bibliophilic Richard, so I really enjoyed that one, and I'm hoping that the succeeding book will be something that will be very enjoyable, or, something that would be a 5-star read. I don't have like a perfect 5-star read for 2023 at the moment. The second book in the Pandava series, though I read it in 2022, I gave it, I believe, 4.75 out of 5. So I'm hoping that this would be a 5 out of 5. So far, I actually started it a bit, because I was so excited, before filming this intro. And so far, it's pretty interesting. And like the chapter titles are kind of like funny, like they have humor, and that's I think like the forte of Roshani Chokshi, especially when she writes like middle grade or preteen fiction. So let us begin conquering this more. Wow. So I've read more than 100 pages of Aru Shah and the Tree of Wishes now. I have some like notes in this notebook, like that I wrote some like pointers that I like to talk, to tackle. So one is like, I really love the depiction of like messed up characters in this book. It's like, something that, let's say, people would see in media, and like they won't feel too much pressure in themselves of being something else, or you know going to a lot of walks, if that makes any sense. Like that's, to me, like there's nothing bad for me of having like characters that are quote unquote excellent, but it's not really bad either to have like kind of messed up characters, in a way, I guess, sometimes. And I love how like there was a discussion about what is really good, is the sleeper like inherently bad, and kind of like the morally gray area, like all that stuff. I just found it interesting how it kind of, made Aru contemplate about like who is really telling, what is good in the stories. Like who is a good one? Who's like the hero or the villain, or the one who depicts of what should be the standard of how one should live, if that's making any sense. I'm getting a little deep because I actually liked it about the book, wherein it does deal with like deeper topics, and that's kind of like what I liked also in the previous book, Aru Shah and the Song of Death. It's like it does deal with topics that are very philosophical, but at the same time they are kind of being placed into more of a kiddie approach, if that makes any sense. So yeah. And yes, they messed up because the sleeper heard, the prophecies. So, now it's time for them to like look for the true tree of wishes. And they're like in the first part where they are trying to get a key that can access like this place where they can find, what's going to give them the clue, or where they can find the tree of wishes. So, sorry about my camera. It does like that every now and then, But yeah, what can I say? So they say it comes to the price when they get that key to like anything. So I wonder if there's anything philosophical about that, something deep that's going to be like sort of implied. So, yeah. So, we'll see. I'll catch folks later. Whoa. I realized that my hair in the previous clip is messed up. I tried fixing it, but apparently it was still very messy. It was like way messy, and I was trying to put like some bangs here, but it kind of had a flip and all that stuff. Well, that's the negative thing when you are actually, kind of quote unquote legally blind, I guess, because my vision is like already in the 400s. So I'm not wearing any glasses or contact lenses. So sometimes it's difficult for me even to see from this point. So, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah. So just to explain that, like, because I was watching, I was like, ooh, what's up with that hair? So here's another reading update of Aru Shah and the Tree of Wishes now. I've read like more than 200 pages of this one, and so far they haven't known where the tree is. Ooh, will they find the wishing tree? Let's find out as we read more about this one. Now, when I was reading this one, it reminded me of Yama and Eclipse because it has like a lot of mentioning. It mentioned a lot about Yama and Eclipse. Well, more on the Eclipse because that was a place where they were supposed to find out about the where the Tree of Wish is, but yeah, it's not there apparently. And then Yama, like the god of darkness, it was mentioned. So I was like, okay. And then I love like how it depicted about how Minnie is underappreciated, and now that she's getting her moments, that she is getting better in terms of like speaking, in terms of like using her voice as a sort of a solution, and I also like how it dealt with like teamwork as well, how it's like the mistake of one is a mistake of the entire team, and it's kind of like it also tackled about why people become, or why the characters became who they are, kind of like in the other books that we read sometimes, why characters become the way they are, and it's very important in order for us to know like the solutions that could be done. Now what I like about this novel so far is that in terms of like the imperfection of the characters, you know it's like they still try their best, but they're aware of their flaws, and it's very evident. But at the same time, they're coming up with solutions, like indirectly, not necessarily directly. Like it would say, "Okay, this is my flaw. I'm gonna do it," but like it just comes naturally, with their like character development, and it was illustrated in a manner that was vivid, which is good. It could be helpful for children or the target audience of this one. So, yeah. And what else can I say? I just love how, also speaking of solutions, it's like, although the other book, like the previous one, Song of Death, had a lot more like adventure and more action packed, and in terms of like the quests were more adventurous, if that makes any sense. Like it's like the setting has a lot going on, whereas this one has a bit of a bare kind of like setting so far, kind of like how I felt with Aru Shah in the End of Time. But so far it's still good, but it has that unpredictable factor wherein it's like, whenever there's this riddle, like so far, like with the whole Q&A that Minnie had, I didn't know what Minnie is going to be answering and how these things are going to be answered. Like, for example, the heaviest thing that one can carry is guilt, and I would like to add regret. Well, they're pretty much like synonymous, but sometimes depending on the context, one word would be used over the other, but they're both heavy. So those are the things that I kind of like picked out when I was reading this. Now, my critique so far is the House of Months. I wish that they could have like illustrated that a little bit more, because I think that that's a very interesting concept, but I feel that it could have been illustrated more and, created this like sort of like an icebreaker where we could just like see, oh, what does September look like, what does June look like, because I think it only focuses on like December, November until October, and there's a bit of September as well, I think. but like the other months were just kind of like until they reached January. That's like what just happened here. But overall, it's been pretty good. It's been a good reading experience, kind of a good way to kind of like bounce back from my previous books that I've read. So yeah, I'm more than halfway, I believe. So I'll catch folks later. Whoa. So here's another reading update. So I didn't really enjoy scenes wherein Garuda was there. The scenes about Garuda, the one with the birds and the fowls. It was boring for me, unfortunately, but it picked up when, they moved to the scenes with Chandra and Rohini, when they were figuring out who is the correct wife and who is the love of his life. And I like the fact that it did talk about like misogyny indirectly, like why does it have to be wives who have to, bear like the burden, like at least in that situation that it was talked about. And yes, they get to meet the god of Saturn, and I find the god of Saturn kind of like a good guy, chill, funny, but because of the curse that was given to him, whenever he is like directly looking at the camera, kind of like this, or directly looking at things, he can like burn or incinerate them. So yeah, but he seems like a very cool, chill, like funny guy, filled with good vibes. I was actually laughing in like some of the scenes here, which is a good thing. So yeah, it's just that scene with Garuda that like worried me, but like the succeeding scenes, it had a lot of wisdom, and it was kind of lighthearted, a little bit of a break. So yeah, a little bit of a break from all that intensity. Well, it's not really that intense, but I think you know what I mean. So catch folks later. Whoa. So I just finished reading Aru Shah, The Tree of Wishes, and that ending with the sleeper and Aru hugging each other, or at least it was Aru who was hugging the sleeper and saying, "I'm sorry." And then like that epilogue, I felt like I was left in a cliffhanger, and I am definitely looking forward to what's going to happen next in Aru Shah, The City of Gold. But you know how I read series, so we're going to have to hold off for now and say that I enjoyed this one. So yeah, we have to like hold our horses. louisity has to hold his horse because, we're going to have to take a bit of a break and yeah, cherish that little cliffhanger or that cliffhanger that happened. And I have to say the other comments that I have is like with Rudy, he's kind of like one of those characters where his characterization of being like annoying is pictured. Like it's like he would be one of those characters like in a film where it's like he's gonna say something and then like the cameras are gonna like turn on to the others and like no, no, something like that. So I had fun with those scenes and that little, thing about Aru and Aiden. Are you like team Arden or Aru like that? So yeah, and that scene with what's her name again? Let me just check quickly. I'm kind of bad with names, so pardon me if I already looked it up. There we go. Aranyani. I just want to make sure that I got her name correctly. Aranyani. That scene is filled with a lot of wisdom, and it's kind of like a thing that similar to that scene where with Agni about being omniscient and like, knowing a lot of things could really make you go crazy. So it kind of reminded me of that like scene. So I think that was wonderful. And that's the thing about, the Aru Shah series, the Pandava series. It does have a lot of like hidden, wisdom. Regardless of whatever your faith is, I think that there are things here that you can align with. So I think that was wonderful. Overall, like I said during the previous clips, there were some scenes that didn't really resonate to me. The like illustration or the way that they were described or written. Ooh, that was a loud dog. The way that they were, I think the dog kind of agrees with me. Woo! So, yeah, like the way that some of the scenes were described, they were not as clear or as vivid as I expected them to be. Like that scene with Garuda, and I think that a little bit of that scenes with Opal, although Opal did like had an impact about like some of the scenes, like when he was already talking with Aru about not being good enough, but like some of the scenes in between weren't as striking compared to how I felt during Aru Shah, the Song of Death. So yeah, but still, it's an enjoyable book. It has a lot of wisdom. I'm gonna be giving this book 4.95 out of 5 stars. There were a lot of like hilarious scenes, kind of like how I felt with To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I know that's kind of like different because that's like a YA contemporary, and this is like a middle grade preteen or an early YA fantasy kind of book. So, but yeah, in terms of like the way that they wrote their stories and making you laugh, I think kind of, I have to say that they have like a similar attack to that. So yeah, and I'd have to say that it is probably like early YA already because of the ages of the characters, but I know sometimes, you know, ages are not really the confirmation of what kind of a book it is. But yeah, so I'd still say that it is like middle grade preteen. So it's up to you and how you would see it, but I think so far it's middle grade preteen. And like I said, I'm giving this 4.25 out of 5 stars. Let me know what you think of Aru Shah and the Tree of Wishes. Now, if you've made it this far, leave a spiral notebook emoji. You're Salem. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, click that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon somewhere down there to keep yourselves posted about my videos. And also put down links and handles of my social media accounts, so feel free to check me out and follow me there as well. As always, thank you super much for watching. Always be thankful and unleash the reader in you. Bye, y'all.